We are here today with Kevin from Bonnett's Bookstore in Dayton, Ohio, and we're going to talk about books.
And the history of book selling.
And the history...
No,
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I like that pulpy stuff because the store goes all the way back to the pulp era. My grandpa was a pulp writer. He wrote detective stories in like what was the earliest one? Well, he was writing detective stories before opening the store. And it was money he made writing that allowed him to open the store.
Was he published in the pulps?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what's his name?
He wrote under Murray Bonnett. He wasn't, he wasn't one of the big names. He didn't go down in history, but he did get at least one story into a very well-respected pulp called The Black Mask.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple decades ago, somebody published a book called The Black Mask Boys, which the only purpose of the book was to chronicle all the people who had made it into that magazine. So he's in there, and that's pretty cool. After a while, the pulps just kind of died out. They lost their verve, and the publishers weren't going to stop publishing, so they started making other stuff, paperbacks and other forms of pulp fiction. But so he started writing some other stories. He wrote some smut for a while, and
is it published? Published like sleaze books?
Yeah.
Are you willing to share the name?
There is a story he wrote called Sex Factory, and he wrote it under the name H. Tenob, which is Bonnett backwards. Anyway, so this book's called Sex Factory, and I've never seen a copy of it personally. I found pictures of it online. Unfortunately, back in the 50s, some poor bookseller in either Wisconsin or Minnesota was up on charges for selling, naughty books, and that book was used against him as evidence. So it had to be a bad book. It had to be.
I don't know. Back then they would bring up charges on people for like Erskine Cardwell and stuff. For
but this was clearly.
But
Sex
it was,
Factory.
yeah.
I mean, you're not hiding that. But anyway, so that's unfortunate. I always kind of feel bad about that. That some guy got. It's in the. I found it because it's
he didn't make him sell it.
It's in the state's public record, right? Right. I know he didn't make him sell it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
But then later he wrote this story called Satan in High Heels, which is not a dirty story, but it's a story about sleazy people.
Yeah.
I don't really know the deep background of it. Somebody else helped him turn it into a screenplay. If you look at the credits, you'll see. Well, if you ever find the book Satan in High Heels, it says by Noel Candler.
Yeah.
which was a pen name that my grandpa used. Apparently, people used to say he looked like Noel Coward, the actor, and Candler was probably his tribute to Raymond Chandler of, like Maltese Falcon.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So, because he liked the mysteries.
So he did write the novelization then.
Yeah, he wrote the novel Satan in High Heels, and at some point somebody decided it would make a good movie, so they made a movie, and this was in the early 60s, and my dad wasn't really working here yet. He was in New York trying to become an actor. So, he had an in, so he got a small role in the movie.
Who does he play in the movie?
He plays a character named George. He does have a couple of lines, but the only thing he does is basically sit at a piano in a nightclub. He's the club's daytime rehearsal pianist.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't even show up in the show scenes when the girls
It's when
are actually
I
performing.
actually just watched it. It's the scene where he's smoking a cigarette and he's like, I just took 5. Yeah. Okay.
Dad doesn't talk much about this place or the girls here.
I am not just one of the girls here.
I can see that.
George, why don't you take 5?
I just did.
Again, please?
All right.
Shortly before the pandemic, somebody decided to make Satan in High Heels into a musical, and it was performed just off Broadway.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't a big hit, but
It's amazing.
it's one more step.
It's cool.
Like
It's
wow.
awesome.
And then my favorite anecdote about it is Rob Zombie released an album called Super Sexy Swingin' Sounds, and it was remixes of some of his other songs. And he has a song called Electric Head. So he had Electric Head Part 1 and Electric Head Part 2. Well, Electric Head Part 1, he subtitled it The Satan in High Heels Mix.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
so yeah.
And so as
One day I hope to thank him personally.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I make our place stand out as much as possible by featuring all the crazy stuff. Like, I don't know if you saw my post today. It was a Detective Comics number 99, Batman and Robin and the Penguin on the cover, but it has 2 covers. It got covered twice at the bindery, and that's kind of a rare thing. So that's neat.
It's like a butcher cover Batman.
No, they're not hiding anything.
Okay.
It's they're not
They
fixing
didn't
them.
paste over anything.
No, it's just it got 2 covers accidentally were stapled onto it.
Huh.
Neither one of the covers is in great shape. It's not like a really, super high value thing, but that's a rarity. It's
Yeah, it's just odd. Yeah, that's one of the best parts about coming to this store is you have so much stuff you do not find anywhere else.
Oh,
Just like
Yeah.
digging down in the bottom and like pulling stuff out. It's just like you just see stuff that you don't really see anywhere else. And
it's true. And,
especially the sleaze area.
Oh.
I've been to lots of stores, and maybe 5, maybe 10, and I'll show it later. But it's pretty big.
okay. I mean, I don't brag on the sleeves a lot, but well, and if I did, I'd probably just be in trouble all the time on the internet, right? So I keep it comfortable, keep it safe.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll post something and I'll censor bits that need to be
yeah.
censored, and people go, "Why do you do that?" I'm like, "Because I want to be here tomorrow." So yeah, but I try and stay away from stuff that I need to censor. But interesting, this just happened a couple weeks ago. So there's a guitar up by the front desk, and a guy came in and he was like, "Oh, do you play?" And I was like, "No, I don't play, but a buddy of mine thought I needed a guitar here, so so he left me a guitar." And he says, "Can I?" And I'm like, "Sure." So he picks it up, he starts playing Stairway to Heaven. I'm like, I don't need to hear Stairway to Heaven
like a
anymore.
Wayne's World. Yeah. No Stairway to Heaven.
But he did it well.
Yeah.
He did it well. And then when he got done, so where he was sitting, he happened to be like at the entry of an adults only section. And when he got done playing, he just kind of glanced around and saw what he was sitting in. And he was like, I've never seen an adult magazine before.
Really?
And I was like, I was kind of blown away too. I'm like, that just didn't make sense to me. And then I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 24. I said, this is 24. You're exactly the right age to have never seen an adult magazine before.
Yeah.
Because all your porn's on the internet.
Yeah, they don't need it. So Harold Bonnett, he opened the store. He created it.
Oh, yeah. There's everything's got little twists and turns to it. So my grandmother's maiden name is Guy, G-U-Y. Just, and maybe that's what I should call people. Hey, Guy. And they had a secondhand store on West 3rd Street in Dayton here before this existed. So, in fact, I've seen a couple of magazines that have their store stamp on the cover. The store stamp, that's another thing.
Uh-huh. What year was this?
Oh, gosh, it was early 30s.
30s?
Yeah. So, Grandpa wrote some stories. He sold some stories. So we have this neat exchange of letters that we found. Because it's the Depression, everybody was, you don't waste anything. Waste not, want not. Do things as inexpensively as possible. So he was writing letters back and forth with his mother who lived up in St. Mary's. And my dad was born in 1935. So she's writing, when are you going to come up and, let me see the baby? And he's like, well, it's a long ride up there on the trolley. Apparently there were intercity trolleys at that time. And he was working at Reynolds and Reynolds. So he's like, and he was on the night shift. There's an old photo of him being on the night gang at Reynolds and Reynolds. That's pretty cool. So they're writing back and forth using the same pieces of paper. So you've got her letter and then his reply on the back, and then maybe halfway down there's the beginning of her next letter, and it just kept going. So we have the entire conversation. And at some point she brings up, well, I know somebody up here who's selling a car for $50. And he's like, well, if I had $50 we could talk. I don't know what the
going rate for cars
was back then, but in a few exchanges later, he says, I've sold 5 stories for $50 a piece. I'm like, wow, you can buy 5 cars.
Yeah. It's a lot of money, right?
Apparently. It would seem to be. So that was still, it was probably the early part of the late 30s. He still kept writing after opening the store, but it was the money he made writing that allowed him to open the shop. And opening the shop was just a way to make sure he had steady income. Because apparently her grandma's parents' shop was doing okay, and they were selling magazines, but for some reason they decided they were also selling, if I understand correctly, they sold used furniture, used clothing, all the stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently they decided they just wanted to do paper, comics and pulps. In fact, this wasn't a bookstore at first. It was kind of like a video store back in the day. They just sold entertainment, and people could buy something. So most new magazines sold for a dime back then, and we were selling them used for a nickel. And if you bought magazines here, you could trade them back and swap them and save some money, even more on it. So if you traded them back, they were worth about 2.5 cents a piece. So you 2 for 1. It was a good deal. And they just did that forever and ever and ever. And we still do. I mean, I still do trades. Of course, there's so much more stuff and so many more types of items. I mean, now I am doing books. I'm doing movies. I'm still doing comics. The occasional pulp. Most of the pulps are gone, but yeah, it's that. Yeah, we still do that. It's just people don't seem to be as interested in trading as they used to be.
Yeah.
Lots of collectors. So people, no, I collect my books. I said, well, do you have any duplicates? Yeah, bring me your extras.
No, yeah, you give the best trade in town. That's for sure.
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, as trading's a really good deal, or it can be. Just bring in good stuff and you can get good stuff.
Yeah,
it's really simple equation. Yeah, so I don't think there was anything to it except that he just wanted to make sure he had a regular income for his family.
Because you don't sell online, do you?
I do not sell online.
I just wanted to ask why.
Because I've tried it and it sucked.
Yeah.
Every time. So, okay, right now, I'm basically running this shop on my own. My son does help out. But back in the early 2000s when computers came around, and we still had, 5 people working here. Well, 4. It was Grandpa, my dad, and me and my brother. And I was the computer guy. So I'm like, okay, let's try out eBay. Let's try out, other things. And every time something piddly went wrong and it became a pain in the ass. And I'm just like, I don't have time to, piddle around with every little transaction, and I'm just not going to do it. So I don't do it. I also, I still think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be one of these all sales final guys, I don't want to look like a jerk either.
Yeah, it's difficult, but you also got to guard yourself.
I do, and so for now I'm just going to stick with selling in here, and people see what they're buying firsthand. There's never any issue.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you do it.
Well, me too. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't order books online very often.
I'm not opposed to it, and I know people who are doing quite well selling online.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't feel like it's for me right now. And also, if I'm doing that, it's going to take away from, trying to do what needs to be done in here.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at our schedule, it's a very short daily schedule.
Yeah, your hours are 6 to 9, right?
But that's just the hours that I'm open. And honestly, there are rare occasions when I get here early. I frequently stay open well past 9. I'm not going to kick people out because it's a nightlife neighborhood. There's all the bars and restaurants. It attracts people in the evening. Dayton's a working town. People are at work during the day. So
yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't mind being open earlier, but what happens is moving boxes of stuff or reshelving books. It's sweaty, dusty work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it before I open because I'm going to be nasty all day, and it's uncomfortable for me. It's going to be bad for other people. So I open the store, and after I close, that's when I start working on the shelves and the piles and the boxes and the stacks and the bagging and the pricing and the research and the cleaning and the bills and all the things that we do. So there's a lot of times when it's not evident that I've done anything, but I'm always doing something.
You're always doing something. You're like, this is just in case my wife is watching.
No, as as I'm looking off screen here, I'm looking at
like all those boxes. I
there's,
got to do that.
What, 10, 12, 12 boxes of stuff right here that I'm way behind on. These came in a long time ago. There's good stuff in there, but I just haven't had time to get to them because my main concern is clearing the boxes out of my entryway.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that in a second.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But if you want to take a browse around the shop. There's the entryway, and all these boxes, all of these piles are more of my inbox, my to-do piles on both sides. And there's more here that you can't see around the corner.
Yeah.
And there's more over here, and there's stuff everywhere, but there's a lot of movement, a lot of flow, and it's just a lot for one guy to keep up with.
Oh, I bet.
So,
what's up with the stuffed animals? When did that start?
Well, sometimes in my feeds you can find pictures of the store before we had the toys, and that's around 1980. So by 1980, the store was already 40 years old, and it was still a big GM town. We had 5 or 6 plants making parts and vehicles for General Motors. So one of our longtime customers, because like I said, we'd already been here 40 years, he was going to retire and he was going to move away. And he left us a toy truck to remember him by. And I don't know the truck. I don't know the guy because this stuff happened before I got here. And it's kind of sad, but he left us this toy truck, and my dad thought it looked lonely all by itself up on the shelves. So he started putting up cartoon characters because we've always been a comic shop.
Oh, yeah.
So pretty soon people started getting the idea, oh, you guys are collecting toys, I'll bring you some stuff down. And people started donating because through the 80s, there was such a glut of plastic stuff. Even restaurants like Perkins and Denny's had kids meals, it's kind of silly, but there was so much plastic stuff and everybody was getting things and a parent would be glad to get rid of these things, cleaning out their kids' room.
Yeah.
So they said, yeah, we'll bring you some stuff. And so there's a lot of love in this collection from our customers, and we don't sell the toys. It is a collection.
Yeah. I bet that there's a vintage toy store next door, and I bet he goes nuts. He's like, damn it, give me those toys.
But sometimes I visit him. Okay, so because we don't sell the toys, we don't particularly buy the toys. But every once in a while I find a thing that I really want to have in here. So a while back, it's Mike's Vintage Toys, by the way. Good dude. Good deals. He had this old wind-up Flash Gordon rocket fighter.
Yeah.
Official Flash Gordon. And he said it was from 1939. And that's the year the store opened.
Yeah.
I want this. Also, I grew up watching Speed Racer, and I'm a big fan of the number 5.
Yeah.
And Flash Gordon. So a Flash Gordon toy rocket, and science fiction is my favorite genre anyway. So I was just like, I have to add this to the store. I have to have something that I can point to and say, yeah, that's as old as the store.
Yeah.
So now it hasn't been here since then. In fact, I only got it a couple years ago, and it's it's not beautiful, but it doesn't need to be.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to look.
It would work, but it's the flint that goes in the back is gone. So
it light it on fire. It's a kid's toy.
It would shoot sparks. Yeah.
So you said science fiction's your favorite. Why don't you show us the science fiction first?
Oh well, it's right here. This is pretty much the end of it. So there's a lot of TV shows. These Hunger Games books are here because they're just a pretty nice set of the hardbacks, which I don't get often, and they're in good shape, and I wanted to keep them prominent. But I've got stuff about gaming, like D&D. So what are the Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, and then there's some Warhammer stuff and other things. So everything right here is sort of licensed materials, like
Oh, okay.
TV shows.
TV shows, Star Trek and stuff.
Yeah, so this is my Star Trek, this is Star Wars, and there's other stuff. And then they're just alphabetized by author. So, I got like Roger Zelazny here somewhere, maybe. I might be out of Zelazny.
Only because you said it.
Right. And then they just alphabetize by author. They go back through this little alcove, which is kind of cluttered up with more to-do boxes. And then...
So this is the sci-fi?
Yeah.
And then it wraps around.
Yep. Hardbacks, paperbacks, vintage stuff. Classic reprints, like there's that rack full of Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan, and Mars books. I even have that You better edit this part. I'm not going to say it. Yeah, I have stuff by just about everybody.
I don't know what you're going to say, but I can guess because we're talking about old books, so I can just imagine.
I was going to speak negatively in reference to L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, yeah, you can say that. I don't give a shit. Fuck that guy.
He was a good writer, despite the things he's,
what he's put into the world.
Responsible for. Yeah. He did write a hell of a lot of pulp, and he wrote a lot of stuff under pseudonyms because he was writing so much.
Mm-hmm.
But, somebody was paying him to do it, so I had to have something going on. Anyway, I start out the section. This is a little odd. I tend to start out the section with Arthurian legend as part of the fantasy sci-fi thing, so books about King Arthur and Merlin and Camelot, and then second is Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, and then it's alphabetized by author. I just put those guys first because everybody's always looking for those things. So I just wanted to be easy to find.
That's cool. It's eccentrically in order.
Yeah, it's a thing. And I think from here you can safely show that shelf. That's all adult.
We'll get closer.
Well, it's not all adult. Care. There's some more work piles over there, but yeah, it's
yeah, we'll look through that.
Not for kids over there. But yeah.
All right, well, what's down here? The horror section?
Yeah, this used to be our primary horror shelf, but because I've piled too much stuff in front of it and I haven't gotten rid of my old PC yet, it's kind of the stragglers, the stuff there's a lot of. So V.C. Andrews, Dean Koontz.
Oh yeah. I'm assuming Stephen King's back there.
Yeah, well, I've gotten Stephen King in his own area because he's Stephen King.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few paperbacks over here, hardbacks over here. In fact, a couple of my to-do boxes are full of Stephen King that I need to refill this empty space with. But then see, there's more Dean Koontz, there's Brian Lumley. Under here, there's some more to-do boxes, but more Dean Koontz, some more Anne Rice, John Saul. Yeah. Yeah, I keep tabs on my stuff. It's just hard to keep it all in one place because so many of the shelves only fit certain sizes of things.
I like that all your shelves are different too.
Yeah, and this is an interesting thing. I realized just a couple weeks ago that these shelves, these little standalone shelves, which I have, there's at least 6 of them in here, and there used to be more, but they're in some of the photos of, my grandparents working in here when they were young.
Wow.
And I'm like, these are ancient shelves. I'm going to build Stonehenge out of these things.
That's great. You think he made them?
He did not make them. As far as I know, I do know that because they're pretty standard. They tend to be very uniform. And he was not necessarily known as a carpenter, but he did build some of our shelves. And then we had other people building shelves, and like most of the places where the shelves get really high, you can see there's a different tone to the wood. Mm-hmm. We had a contractor install those for us to expand our display space. I say a contractor, it sounds fancy, but it's a guy. A guy who knew how to do everything.
A guy who worked for Spider-Man comics?
No, he worked for money. I did used to know, when we were kids, we went to a dentist who liked Disney Duck comics, and he would trade dental work for comics.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty sweet deal for her dad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I own a screen printing business, and I've traded for records, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I kind of wish I knew a guy now because I could use some dental work. But this aisle gets pretty narrow.
What is this section? I've always wondered. It looks like those are what you would consider like the 90s thrillers, I guess?
Thrillers and suspense. And not just the 90s. I mean, I've got David Baldacci. I've got my Jack Reacher stuff. I've got, it's not age-based.
Yeah.
But it is thrillers and suspense. And right now, I've got a lot of this stuff randomly piled over here because I was trying to straighten this up, and it was a job that I didn't get finished with.
And these are movies, right? These are novelizations.
This shelf is, as you can see from like here over, yes, these are supposed to be books, the movie editions of books. Now, like the Tolkien stuff I kept with Tolkien because it's Tolkien.
Yeah.
But we've got the, I don't have the first of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books, but I've got those up here. Seabiscuit. Well, also TV shows, so X-Files, which normally I would have X-Files books up in that little front section at the end of the sci-fi, but I ran out of space up there, so I moved them back here.
Sorry, that's what makes this place fun.
But I have to remember all of it. I have to remember where I moved everything. Because I don't know how it works, but it works. And I'll remember, like, I don't have the shelves numbered in the books. I have my sections, and I'm putting out books almost every day. So I remember what I've seen. If I've got a stack of James Patterson books, and I'm putting them back here, and I stick them in the shelf, and then I see all the stuff that's around, and when somebody asks me for something, then I'll go, oh yeah, I was back there by those James Patterson books. It's just the way the brain works.
Totally.
But yeah, if you go, so these movie books, some of these are really cool because I like working on this section because there's so many books that were made into movies that people forgot about. Mm-hmm. I don't have any copies of Satan in High Heels. I would love to find one, man. But I'm not gonna.
I bet it's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, quick side note about mailing and selling online. I don't sell online because it's been a pain in the butt the few times I've tried. But I also have a history of ordering stuff and it arriving all messed up. Mm-hmm. So I haven't gone out of my way to acquire things that I would like to have from the internet because I don't want it to get messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a bad taste.
Yeah, I mean, it's a... Not everything I've ordered gets destroyed, but I bought a limited pressing 500 copies of an album that when it arrived, it was safely packaged and everything, but when it arrived to me, it had a note from the post office. Sorry, this was damaged.
Yeah.
It wasn't just damaged. They drove over it with a damn forklift. It's got a tire track across, a little skinny forklift tire track
Right.
across the middle of it. It warped the record.
Yeah.
This is one of 500. It's not exactly the thing I can just go out and get another one.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it came with digital copies, digital downloads, so I have the music.
No,
And
that's
I
not
have-
okay.
Yeah, I have the disc and that's lovely, but just grr. And I'm not trying to trash the post office. It's it's not always their fault, but I just don't like ordering stuff for myself because of fears of damage. Anyway, but what I was getting ready to say is there are movies down here that you forget about. You forget, like let's see, what's one of the good ones that I always forget about? Well, movies that were just freaking huge back in the day, like in the 70s. Say something like, here we go, Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah.
Which was a big deal movie at the time because it was about a divorce, and divorces were running rampant in the 70s. And it's probably, is that Glenn Close?
I don't think I've ever
No, it's
seen
Meryl
it.
Streep. Meryl Streep. So Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep playing a couple getting divorced, and all their trauma and heartache and
Yeah, I was really surprised by how many movies actually got novelizations back then. They did it.
everything did because why not?
Right.
There wasn't all this other stuff to take attention away.
Yeah, especially before VCRs and cable and
Yeah, one of my other other favorites is Black Sunday.
yeah. See, I don't know that one either.
It's not necessarily a great movie, but this is Thomas Harris
The Silence of the Lambs.
of Silence of the Lambs. It's a very early book. This was, let's see, this is the fourth printing of the novel from 1976. But it was made into a movie, and it's about somebody puts a bomb in a blimp and they're going to blow up the Super Bowl.
That's awesome.
And so it's all the intrigue and the trying to stop the dastardly deed, and it's kind of on the heels of all the 70s had a raft of disaster movies. You got the Poseidon Adventure, you got Airport,
Yeah, the airplane ones.
and all the subsequent airports, and then the spoofs.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can do up there.
somebody did come in. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's just neat to see these reminders of things that you forget about over time. Be right back.
Okay.
one who cracks the whip and holds the upper hand. I'll beat you, mistreat you, till you quiver and quail. The female of the species is more deadly